Hi everyone, I'm playing with the same QUETZAL deck again. Hopefully by the time this is published, the Kalagoda implementation will be out on jiteki.net and we can get down to the viewer's choice. Speaking of which, please, give me your viewer's choice suggestions if you haven't already, because I would need more of them to begin experimenting. Also, welcome to another episode of Deja Vu, where we play the same matchup again, the same as last time. QUETZAL versus Blue Sun. Again, a very dynamic, interesting matchup. We'll see how this one goes. Honestly, there's not much to say about the opening or the early game, so I will just fast forward through this. Basically, he gets a curtain wall behind one piece of ice, and I don't have a David in hand, so I'm not going to contest that. Instead, I'm just going to set up my wild side and my money. Very logical actions here. Get the chronotype as soon as I can, so I'll get 4 click turns. In the meantime, he gets an Oaktown out. Rushing against me is a very good idea before I find my Faust and David. I continue getting money, and I'm poking at his deck, not getting too much information yet. He doesn't find a second oversight, and I start to draw my knife, which is very interesting. I know there's a curtain wall somewhere. If I can find it, I can destroy it. But first, I also need to find my E3 feedback implants to go with QUETZAL's ability. So, I have a very good resource-based econ going. The daily cast is going to take to give me a lot of money, and I do find my E3. Now, I don't want to play my David yet. Actually, maybe I do. At this point, I want to play either my David or my E3. I don't want to play both because that will give up the surprise factor. I cannot let him know that he has a secure scoring window. So I'm just going to play one of them. I decide to play the E3 and go for the legwork. Because I figure he probably has agendas in hand at this point, and the file should take care of most things. It's a data pike. Pretty annoying because unlike Enigma, I cannot pitch only one card to it and call it a day. So I need to pay 1 extra credit by E3. I don't see any agendas. A bit unfortunate right there. And the game goes on. Nothing much to say. I do find a medium, but he does have an upgrade on R&D. Very preemptive. And that definitely helps him out quite a bit. There's a Caduceus, which sucks up 2 cards in the credit. And I see a certain card. Well, it's a Scorched Earth. I didn't trash his Chrysium, I would normally do, but if I trash this Chrysium, I would be within C double Scorch range. So I did not trash his Chrysium, and he drew into what I assume is his second Scorched Earth. So that's a bit dangerous. I'm going to go for his remote here, because he thinks it's secure. He doesn't know that I actually have a David, so I can actually get past this assassin pretty handily. 1 David counter, and an E3 credit. And by this time, he doesn't have a lot of money left to rest ice, so I'm pretty sure I can get through this server. So I'm going to get through, and I see a Shattered Remains! Oh no! Oh gosh. I don't have a plus screen installed, but this is worse. This blows up my E3 feedback implants, and I'm only running 1 copy in this iteration of the deck. Oh no! I really needed the E3. That you can see he's running so many multi-sub ice. Not having the E3 is going to be such a huge problem. Of course, I'm going to have my Retribution, and I'm going to fork his Assassin. That eats up my entire David, but at least that sets him back by 7 credits. I think that's pretty worth it. Okay, now I'm actually going to rush look for my Levy because I desperately need the E3. I know he's running a curtain wall, and I don't actually have a good way of getting past curtain wall. On the same token though, I need to keep up the central pressure. Hopefully slow him down and get rid of that annoying Chrysium grid on R&D. Yes. What? You've got to be kidding me! You can't be serious. Well, thankfully I do have 3 clicks, so this is not going to be too painful, but I do need to break all the subroutines. I cannot afford to take 1 brain damage at all. Firstly, that brings me down to 4 hand size, which leaves me vulnerable to C double Scorch, even if I have 1 I've had worse. More importantly, if it snipes off my only I've had worse, I'm done for. I know he's running Sea Source and Scorched Earth, so I'm forced to trash all my cards in my hand. And this leaves me with 3 cards at the end of my turn. I'm still gonna trash the Chrysium Grid. I know that he can bounce his Janus back and C double Scorch me. And that's exactly what he attempts to do here, but I tell him that is not allowed, simply because I did not make a successful run. The Chrysium Grid was res, therefore it was not a successful run on R&D, he cannot seesaws me. Well, that saved my bacon, huh? Nope, that was calculated and completely intended. I'm not going to die to seesaw scorched earth shenanigans. No thank you. So, I have a pretty big hand right now, and I don't really have much to do. I would really like to expend some cards from my hand through running, but I know that there's probably a Janus on R&D. Let's not go there again. I'm not gonna drop my entire hand this time because if there's no Christian Grid, he might see double scorch me. So instead I'm going for HQ because I did pick up a Utopia shard, and Utopia shard's absolutely invaluable against kill. It more or less is like a plus 3. Now I could proc it right here, and I do just that. Then I'll check archives to see if there are any agendas. Turns out it's the seesaws and a scorched earth. That is exactly what I want to see. I'll take that any day. Of course, I remember to clear the tag from the Raven, and life goes on. So that was very successful. This means that I can probably spend the next few turns playing aggressively, and now that he advances something that remote, it's time to play aggressively. I whip out the David, surprise second David, and run through his bouncing Janus. Ugh, that's annoying. Thought that was on R&D. Well, thankfully I got the David out, means that I can actually click through it, spend all 3 David counters, and fetch myself a tasty Atlas. Very important there. Now, I had another option there. I could have simply taken a couple brain damage and then proceed to same old forked it. Actually, I don't think that would have worked, but it could. I don't know. Either way, that would have been a very risky line of play, but that would have completely bankrupted him. As you can see, he's pretty rich. He has 24 credits. He can threaten a Janus res anytime, and that's all obviously very scary without an E3 feedback implants. So here I'm just playing safely, which is to wait for my levy and hopefully levy into another E3 to go on my merry way. Well, there's no E3 there, but we'll make do with it. Also to note, I only have 1 David left because my second David is on the board when I levy, so this might be a problem. In addition, he's starting to place pressure on me. He's saying, no, you're not running? Fine, I'm gonna score my agendas. Well, I'm not sure if I can contest that, to be honest. A bouncing Janus is definitely not something that I can deal with right now. And I need to keep at least 1 iPad Worse in hand to deal with Flatline, so I'm going for HQ instead. We'll see how this works out. Bouncing Janus. What the hell? You can't be serious. How many of them are there? Oh gosh, this is torture. And I only have 1 click left. No David counters. Am I forced to take brain damage at this point? Oh man, what I would pay for an E3 feedback implant at this point. Gosh, being able to break through that 15 res ice for 1 click and 3 credits, that's amazing. Instead, now I have to contend with this beastly ice. Alright, so I started my turn with 7 cards. I need to ditch 3 to boost strength to 8, another 3 to break 3 subroutines, and lose a click. This leaves me with but 1 card in hand. I'm so vulnerable to a flatline right now, it's ridiculous. Well, I'm still gonna get an access, and it better not be a snare. Of course it's not, it's a Jackson, which I immediately trash. I don't want him to hyper draw into his agenda. And I'm forced to finish my turn with a single I've had worse, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a seesaws at this point, so it's fine. Problem is, he now has an Atlas, so he can actually tutor for that seesaws. I draw up to 5 cards before playing the Utopia shard here. And then I draw again, so I end my turn with 5 cards, which means he cannot see single scorched me. He needs to see double scorched, and I don't think he has 2 of the 3 combo pieces yet. Remember, he only needs 2 combo pieces, the third one can be tutored with the Atlas. So, another card goes in the remote. Could it be an Atlas? Certainly. Can't do anything about that. Now, there's a fork in my hand, there's a David in my hand. I could fork a Janus at this point, but forcing him to res a Janus and then having the cards to break through the same Janus again in the same turn before he bounces it is pretty tough. That is almost impossible without E3. This is why Blue Sun is actually pretty good against the cutlery, because once you start bouncing your ice, I can't actually cutlery them down because they are unresed. So I go to R&D instead, and at least that's not a freaking Janus. That's a Caduceus, a nice, friendly Caduceus. And at this point, I'm just gonna concede the credit advantage to him. Right now, his limiting factor is not money; it's the amount of ice he has. He can only have so many big ice in his deck, so that's the only limiting factor. And I get a Mimic out so that I don't have to keep triggering that subroutine. I can just break for 2 credits, don't have to worry about Faust cards either. So, he does Hyper Draw with Jackson, so at this point I cannot be too safe. I need to make sure that I have at least 1 iPad Worse in hand and 5 cards at the end of each turn. So I need to play very cautiously. I'm still nowhere near winning, which are all pretty bad news. Now, I definitely want to install the David the moment I decide to start running, otherwise I will be in big trouble, because Janus could be seriously anywhere right now. Anywhere at all. And what about this? This ice? Please tell me. Oh! What sorcery is this? Oh, why didn't I play that David? Why? Why? Oh gosh. That is brutal. So brutal. Well, I'm still gonna get through that server. I'm still gonna get 1 medium counter, and I'm not going to die anytime soon between Utopia Shard and double IFAT words. But man, that's obnoxious as all hell. Gosh! What can I do? Until I find my E3, I'm completely helpless. That E3 had better show up, because this Janus is wrecking my day. Ugh. Give this green-haired lady a little break now, won't you? Please? Pretty please? No? No. No, says Blue Sun. No, of course. Blue Sun is heartless. No, of course not. He's gonna install double advance in that remote. Well, I drew my E3. Good game. Good game. Let's go. Let's draw up first. Make sure I have enough cards for Faust Food. And let's raid his remote. Let's do it. 1 last click left in case he does res a Janus against me. Can click. Shut up already. Okay, I'm gonna click through the Janus 1 time and that triggers E3. And I should be able to get through. He has a lot of money to res stuff, but he doesn't. I'm going to stick my head in and see the global food. Nope, not yet. He's gonna res a spiderweb against me. That's fine, no worries. I'm gonna ditch 2 cards because I'll be over my hand size anyway, and use QUETZAL's ability once, get past 3 subroutines. You've got to be f***ing kidding me. This is just so f***ing sadistic. Bloody can't do.
We apologize for the disruption in the broadcast. We will resume when the commentator stops crying his salty tears.
Okay, it's under control. The Junebug hit a couple of I've had worses, so we're good. We're still well alive. Not gonna get scorched yet. Let's run R&D. Let's run. Let's get through the first ice. Come on. Let me through. Please. Oh, thank goodness. Okay. Curtain wall. We can do it. We'll break it. QUETZAL, E3, Caduceus, spend a couple cards. Let's get to the bottom of this. Cyberdex, that's fine. We'll get through. We'll call it Scorched Earth. Yes, I know Elizabeth Mills. I know you're there. You don't have to remind me every single time I run. But I'm not going to be subject to your urban renewal policy. Let's get that straight. Uh-oh. I'm getting tagged. My stack is empty. He has an Atlas counter. It's not gonna happen. This is QUETZAL, checking out.